You're listening to Fintechs, a podcast that explores the innovations and challenges in Canada's fintech landscape. My name is Sue Britton. I'm the CEO of Firefly Growth and an entrepreneur with over 30 years of experience in the financial industry. I also serve on the FinPay committee, and I'm an advisor for Holt Exchange. Join us as we sit down with industry leaders, trailblazers, and pioneers to discuss their journey, the evolution of fintech, and what's next for Canada's ever-dynamic fintech ecosystem. Here today, I'm joined by Hamed Arbabi. Hamed is CEO and founder of VoPay, and I welcome Hamed.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
And I understand you're based out of Vancouver.
Yes.
I am a newfound BC resident, and so I lived in Ontario for 25 years, and I've finally seen the light. So now I get to enjoy what you've been enjoying for so long.
Yes, probably not. This is not the best month, but definitely Vancouver is an amazing city.
Yeah, apparently some sort of, what do they call it? I don't know.
Rain cover.
Whatever.
Most amount of rain.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Well, I was in Ottawa last week, and I think they have 30 centimeters of snow. So I think we're still okay. So Hamed, it's great to meet you. And I've heard a lot about your company, and I've heard a lot about you. But maybe why don't you tell us about VoPay and, I think you founded the company in 2014. What's been your journey, and why did you start VoPay, and what is the essence of what you do?
Yes. So maybe I can tell you why I started VoPay, and then I'll tell you where we are. And so the story is, I come from a telco background, and in my previous venture, our service was focused on wholesale carrier service. We were basically contracting telcos domestically, internationally, and provide them what it's called airtime. And I think the only thing that was moving physically was the money between the banks. And the biggest challenge we had was tracking reconciliation and movement of money. And it was fairly mechanical process for us. Our finance team was growing as fast as our technology team. And I was always curious that how is this problem can be solved for organizations such as mine. And we also had a retail operation, which we had 7,000 store locations where we were receiving paper checks. And that was another issue where on a micro side. So we had the macro problem on larger transactions, domestic, international, and then we had the micro problem. So that got me thinking of my next venture in my career. And when I exited that venture, I started educating myself to understand how the entire ecosystem works, where the banks are, where the central banks are, and the payment organizations such as Payment Canada or Naturals of the world, and where some concept of VoPay can have a position where it can help the organizations outside the financial ecosystem to streamline their money movement operation.
Wow, interesting. That's and so it's been a journey for you over the past
6 years.
6 years.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. Can you give us a bit of an example for of some of your clients and the maybe just more specifically, like an example of the problem that you solve with VoPay?
Yeah. So maybe I tell you what we do. Our pitch line, where we offer a set of APIs and resources, which are things such as SDKs, white label experiences, to other verticalized software applications or ERPs, and help them to either bring money movement into their entire solution or enhance how money movement is currently structured. Just to put a kind of a picture on it, maybe I use lending industry as an example.
Okay.
So we have, and that's basically covers 30% of our portfolio of customers.
Okay.
And the way we contribute to that industry is by partnering with organizations that called LMS, or loan management softwares. And loan management softwares are the solutions or those vertical software applications that service lenders. So lender wanna sign up, start offering loans. They use that software. They issue loans. They calculate the interest rate. They delay approval and funding and repayments. But traditionally, when it comes to processing the actual payments of the loan, or what they refer in their industry as funding the loan, they have to take that information to their bank or a platform outside the core software, which they manage their business on a daily basis, and process that transaction and come back and manually reconcile within that core platform. Same thing when it comes to repayment of the loans, that they have to take the information for the loans that are due on that certain day, process it with the bank or service provider, and then reconcile it manually in the system. So there is inefficiency, the risk of human error, and it's getting more problematic as they scale across thousands or 10,000s of loans or borrower portfolios. It becomes hectic to manage and grow that way. So we bring the entire solution through partnership with these loan management softwares into the core, so they have one dashboard that they can manage their entire business operation, which means when the loan is approved, by clicking on a kind of a button within that application to fund the loan, they will communicate with our platform. We manage the money movement and then reconcile back to the book. Same thing with repayments. We tell them who has paid, who did not pay, and then they can manage that business more efficiently within one interface rather than having multiple user providers, and helping them to improve their bottom lines, reducing or relocating FTEs for more to areas that contribute more to their business growth, rather than tracking and processing transactions manually.
Interesting. And so the manual part of it, if they didn't have you, like how literally would money move?
It's what we see in our everyday banking. So it's no different that as a person, when you want to send a transaction to an individual from your bank account, imagine e-transfer or a paper check. And I always try to help businesses to understand that your business has no difference without technology on how you manage your personal payments, with the difference that you have to do this at scale, and you have to register these in another system, which is your accounting software. Otherwise, you will not have any visibilities on your business financial activities. And automation is the key for growth and accuracy for financial data, because at the end of the day, any business that being tracked, there is a component of money movement. And the better you manage the finances, it improves your cash flow, it improves your operation efficiencies, and the result is business growth.
Very interesting, because it makes me think about, I just reached out to, so I'm a small business, so not likely a potential customer for you, but it sure would be nice if one of my providers enabled me to move money in a more efficient way, because at the moment I have 2 different business accounts and a personal account, and I have no way of moving, more than $3,000 between those business and personal accounts. It's very frustrating.
We are getting there. We have started working with lots of accounting softwares in this space. Major brands. I can't share the names, but they all have green or blue logos. It's
right. Yeah, I know that. I think those might be just the 2 biggest ones.
And our basically goal is to make that available to as many as businesses across Canada and US. And maybe I want to quickly touch on kind of our 3 goals as part of our mission statement. One is digital transformation, and that means empowering businesses to transition to digital services, which finance is one of the key pillars in digital transformation. Financial inclusion, which is, I think we look at financial inclusion from different point of views, that how financial services are not accessible the way they are supposed to be in Africa, but we don't consider SMB that is not included in all the financial services. That's also lack of financial inclusion, and we see that even across regions and individuals in Canada. So our goal is to enable as many as platforms and software application to be able to reach to the last mile, which are individuals in remote areas or businesses that can operate better and faster with access to more services, and sustainable financing, which we want to eliminate paperwork, checks, anything that can have negative impacts on climate. So we are really focused on marrying the digital transformation to financial to sustainable financing to eliminate those inefficiencies.
Wow. Well, that's very clear. It's, it's not often you have a fintech who has such a clear, mission and value proposition.
Right.
And so beyond your, sort of, you mentioned lending as, about 30% of your business. What do your other market segments look like?
Yes. So there are we are vertical focused. So there are various industries that come to us, but in terms of VoPay, we other than lending, we are fairly invested in PropTech, which is around property management softwares that the rent payments across mom and pop landlord or commercial landlords, and help them that to also pay their bills. We are also, I think, pretty strong in human resource management softwares. There are various use cases such as payroll management or tip management softwares that leverage our platform, gig worker platforms that use our services to streamline the money movement. And there are lots of complexities across each one of these subcategories of human resource management. We are expanding into two other verticals in 2024, which is insurance and healthcare. And in insurance, we have the same approach to every industry we go, because we want to be able to have an impact in every vertical. And going to insurance companies one by one, it's probably not going to help them to address the problem that they have for inefficiencies. So it's just we are bringing additional service, but we want to live within the core software application that they use to manage their business on regular basis. So we are working with insurance software providers to help them automate claim payments, premium payments, payments to brokers, from carriers to agents. So there are those complexities that multiple entities involved in every transaction. And same thing in the healthcare space, how we can improve payments across hospitals and doctors and patients and doctors and all the entities that are involved in that industry.
Wow. It sounds like you have a giant market opportunity based on what you've described.
Yes. That keeps us up at night.
Right. Well, I mean, congrats on your success. It's not easy to make it from founding a company to where you are now. So, okay. So I know we're not going to talk too much about or at all really about the regulatory changes, but it strikes me when I listen to you that when the real-time rail is up and running, that you might be one of those, as the Bank of Canada likes to say, payment service providers.
Yes.
That might enjoy direct access and to be an RTR participant. So move your own money directly within the payments rails. Is that a fair statement?
Yes. We are definitely looking forward to that. And when it comes to regulation, I think I operated in various regulated industries, telco and
Sure. Yeah.
finance. They were heavily regulated, the same structure, different regulation. But and I always look at regulation as something that can safeguard the industry to protect even bad actors or individuals within that industry. And I think the new changes might be challenging for smaller fintechs that will not be able to cope easily. But as an industry kind of player, we want to make sure we support the entire ecosystem and make sure that if we have ability to build services or solutions that can help other providers that are more maybe focused on sales, their sales organizations and technology organizations, they might not be well adapted to these new regulations, or they cannot build the tools to stay compliant. So we just as in a general kind of explanation, we are building a solution that will help other parties. While we want to stay on top of being compliant, we are also building tools and services for other fintechs that they can use that to streamline their regulatory compliance requirements, reporting, and the frameworks that they have to comply with.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear. I think that will become very important as we sort of start 2024 as you probably know Ron Morrow, the Executive Director of Supervision for the Bank of Canada, and he's very concerned that, payment service providers register, but then ultimately, he sort of characterized it as like, he says there's 2,500 PSPs in Canada, but it's a long tail. So there's a lot of very small companies, and I think everybody's, maybe just generally concerned that, to your point, that they be able to actually, fine, they'll be able to register, but how do they actually, put those practices in place? So if you're there to help them with that, I think that would be that's going to be welcome news.
I think the sad reality is there will be some consolidations from smaller companies, either merge or mid-size take over the smaller one, large take the mid-size one, and that's not just because of the regulation, but also because of the economy challenges that we are facing right now.
For sure.
It's not just fintechs. It's many other kind of industries, especially in the tech space. We see lots of the challenges right now from layoffs and all the other things that businesses cannot scale with the pace that they were expecting. But in the fintech space, it's just kind of the regulation and the economy is putting a little bit more pressure on the smaller players in this space.
Yeah, it is incredible to think of how much we have experienced over the last several years, and here at home as well as globally, and it's probably too hard to actually sort of pull apart. Is it the impact of the economy? Is it the impact of the pandemic? Is it what exactly it is? But there's no doubt that things are much more difficult than they were, in the heydays of pre-pandemic time. Low interest rates, growth like crazy. Anyway.
It's a ripple effect of chaotic events.
Yes, right. Unplanned chaotic events. Okay, so let's talk about your global expansion plans and maybe, how you kind of approach sort of looking at the global market and, where you're sort of focused on your expansion. Maybe just talk to us a little bit about that.
That's great. So from the day that I founded VoPay, my vision was to turn it into a global fintech as a service provider. that we can operate in various jurisdictions, and even the way we build our platform has that components built into the heart, where we can it's agnostic, where we can easily make changes based on various components within each jurisdiction. And our growth strategy, as we have been organically scaling into different territories. So we are right now in Canada and US, and as we speak, we are in the process of going live in few Latin American countries such as Brazil, Argentina, Chile, and Mexico, and also getting our shop set up in Europe. To basically have these regions covered in 2024. And the way we do that, or the reason we do that, is that we have these partners where they operate globally. Like the same software applications that I mentioned in different verticals are not just operating in Canada or US. Some of them have operation in Latin America. So it's for us, it's a no-brainer to grow with an existing partner that will basically finance our operation for a certain period and help us to build and validate and adopt the product to the local market with their support, and then scale from there organic. And we see that across many of our partners, where some of them are headquartered in Europe. They started in Canada, they scaled with us in the US, and now they want to leverage our technology in Europe because they enjoyed the value that we bring to the table, and now they want to use VoPay as the primary choice of fintech services.
Wow. And what makes an attractive partner to you in terms of, maybe a bit of the characteristics of a company that's looking for a payment processing provider like yourselves?
I think we are well suited for larger organizations. If that's, if I understand the question, like ideal customer profile.
Yeah.
So we are well suited for larger organizations that have complex money movement operations, which means there are multiple entities involved. Imagine Walmart that has North American operation.
Yeah.
And they have Walmart wholesale, they have Walmart retail, and then they have the branches, and then locations, and then locations have vendors, or they have universal vendors, and how every entity will move money behind the scene to pay. It's not just the payments are not just credit card processing that we tap at the location when we purchase something. That money needs to move multiple hands to continue the cycle in the supply chain. They need to do payroll, they need to do taxes, they need to pay agents, brokers, transportation. There are so many components involved. And our platform has the capability to mirror their existing ERP systems. So the ERP system, if they want to automate the payment and get rid of, manual processing of checks and wires, they can easily replicate that process with our fully customizable APIs to reflect all the entities and how every organization transact with the other one.
Okay. And so is there, like when I think about insurance, there's, many brokers who, obviously will be looking at their back office providers to help them with some of this, but likely there's some technology challenges there to be able to move money the way you do. And so is there a sort of segment of the market that's too small, or maybe that's served through other partners that you're...
I don't think, so the way we look at it is how we reach to the smaller players, where a broker that has 1,000 policies and they have to do claim payments or various use cases. Yeah. And for us, if we directly sell to them, we are not going to be able to serve them well, because we want to make sure, as part of our vision and mission, to add value. It's not just the transactional aspect.
Right. Sure. Okay.
My point earlier that if you're adding another provider, which means you're still doing things manually. But if we can go through the insurance management software that service that broker for their everyday operation, now that broker can benefit from automated money movements and payments and transaction management within that core platform without dealing with a checkbook or another interface that they have to move data back and forth to manage funds and transactions.
So financial institutions certainly have this challenge too, right? Like some of them don't have the ability to access, or provide payment services to their clients. And, I guess that would be a potential,
Yes.
like credit unions, who work through the credit union centrals and therefore, are either limited by or supported properly, regardless, by those centrals. You could potentially work with a credit union central to help them expand their payment capabilities.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, we are working with a lot of financial institutions because we always collaborated from day one. And it's, to your point, is we see that challenge in the treasury and cash management vertical or arm of those institutions. And if it's a tier one FI that has interest in implementing APIs, they collaborate with our team, and then we help them to build that faster. On the credit union boards, we take the same approach of vertical software applications. We know credit unions use a central one or Celeros of the world. And our goal is to collaborate with those organizations so it gives them the ability to enhance the money movement operation or cash management across all the credit unions.
Got it. Okay. Well, I have a really clear picture now of I can almost see your sales and marketing plan in front of me. Let's talk briefly about open banking. And I think we're supposed to call it consumer-directed banking, but
Yes. That's really bonus.
yeah. Anyway, so what impact do you think that's going to have on your business?
Yes, I think the key advantage is transparency and accuracy of data. And right now we have all of these partners that are doing a great job, even though they are kind of probably going through various processes to capture the information. But I think open banking is becoming more mainstream day by day. There are more people that are learning about the values of open banking, and I think with a standard framework and ownership of data and the regulation around it, it will help the service providers to offer higher quality of service. It helps banks to monetize the data that is living in their servers or platforms, and consumers to have access to services that they need to provide their financial data faster and in a more effective way. And I don't see that right now happening in absence of fully implemented open banking framework in Canada.
Yeah. I worked in financial technology before I became an entrepreneur for 25 years. And we used to say that as a technology solution provider, that regulation was the mother of innovation. Most people would not probably agree with that, but when you see the impact, I mean, regulation is the one thing that you have to adopt changes, and that requires you. And this, I think, in both cases for payments and for open banking, I think it's going to be a really interesting couple of years ahead of us.
Yeah.
Because some will adopt approaches or strategies that will be about defending their position, and some will take opportunities to grow. And I think the growth is going to create all sorts of new innovation. lots of need for what you do.
Yeah, definitely. They always say innovation comes, regulation follows, but I think it's not the case anymore. Innovation comes and then regulation stop it and say, wait until I tell you how.
Yeah. I learned something in Ottawa last week when I had some meetings with the Bank of Canada and Finance Canada. And, I continue to be humbled and maybe a bit, sort of feel like I'm continuously naive about the fact that you think that things are, that there's armies of people and things are so, sort of choreographed and, like there's thousands of pages of, I don't know, work that's been done for a lot of this, these things like open banking and all the payment stuff. And the reality is it comes down to a small group of people who, when you talk to them, are very open to, sort of industry involvement and engagement in their plans for implementation. I think that would go for both the Ron Morrow and his team and Finance Canada. So it's like it's like when I think about when you think about going to the hospital, you expect that you'll get the care you need, right? They'll save your life, and I think that is true because we have doctors and we have systems that do provide that. I think government's a little bit different. I don't think government is necessarily as all-knowing and they don't necessarily have all the answers. They need industry to help them. So anyway, I'm getting off my soapbox now.
Generalized service industry that you have, and they don't have the expertise across every industry has so many sub verticals, and I think that the challenge is sometimes lack of understanding of what we are trying to do. The same way we talk about educating the consumer about the risk and benefits of open banking or everything else, I think it's the responsibility of innovators, entrepreneurs, or businesses to invest time and resources to educate people who are within the government entities that are making those decisions. Because if you do not know what you're addressing or what problem you are trying to solve, you are always taking slower steps and approach where you want to make sure you don't make something, you don't approve something, or you don't regulate a wrong framework. So I think that's the biggest challenge, where there needs to be constant messaging and education across various government entities that are involved in various subjects. You have to make them subject matter experts to do things that will benefit you at the end of the day.
Well, that is so well said. I'm very insightful comments, Hamed, and probably why you're part of Fintechs Canada, which is ultimately doing a great job sharing some of these thoughts with the right people. So maybe we can end with a question that's a little bit more about sort of you and your philosophy and your how are you shaping your culture at VoPay, and what is it that you are? I'm sure you've learned many things along the way, but how does all of that shape how you're growing the company?
It's a great question. I think when it comes to culture, there are different assumptions on culture, and it's a tricky question, I will say, all the time. But we really don't have the typical startup culture of beanbags and a fancy kitchen with all the freebies. And I always use a metaphor where there is a concept of teaching someone how to fish or give them the fish. Which one is better? So we always try to help our team members elevate. We have I would say, a very precise process for onboarding new team members. It's not about, and what we look at is their character, and we look at their skill sets after. Because if their heart is in the right place, then they can be a player in the area of their activities or involvement in the organization. And it's a culture of collaboration. Everyone supports each other. Everyone want to make sure their colleagues are gonna grow with them. And we have a simple philosophy of hire from within, that if you want to open a new opportunity in a director level, in a manager level, in a VP level, we give that priority to someone within the organization to prepare themselves, to educate themselves, and literally move and grow within the organization.
Wow. Well, I don't know if you're hiring, but it sounds like a great place to be. So, thanks for sharing that. Those are some really important things, I think, that drives employee engagement and happiness. So, very cool. So, let's wrap up. I want to give you a chance to just sort of restate, your value proposition and your position in the market before we end, just for those folks that, maybe think they have an idea of, hey, I should reach out to Hamed at VoPay to talk about partnering. Tell us again.
Different.
What is,
Yeah, as I mentioned, part of our mission is to empower digital transformation. And we see the trend of many vertical software applications are bringing new value-added services. And one of the key components of many industries is money movements, that we see how all software companies want to be a component of a fintech now. And we build that toolbox where they don't need to invest and build everything from scratch. And they partner with VoPay, and we operate as an extended arm of those specialized ERPs, and helping them to bring money movement and payments into their core value proposition 10 times faster. And we continuously innovate, so they don't need to worry about being on top of their game when it comes to payments and money movements.
Wow. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining Fintechs A, and really appreciate. I'm so glad to have met you. Again, Hamed Arbabi, CEO and founder of VoPay. I think you have a very bright future, and I wish you all the best for a nice holiday season and a great 2024.
Same to you. It was nice meeting you. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us. Looking for more insights? Visit us at fintechscanada.ca or follow us on LinkedIn. We'll see you next time for more on Canada's latest fintech innovations.